Welcome to the podcast, Robyn.
Thank you. It's nice to be here.
What do you actually do?
So I'm an ecologist and a conservation geneticist.
So if you're doing genetic studies, you're obviously looking at maybe like the DNA structure and how that animal is made up. How does that relate directly into conservation?
So one of the really important things in conservation is to conserve genetic diversity. And one of the reasons we do that is so that there's, the information is there if there's an extreme weather event or something like that. So with climate change, we want animals to be able to kind of adapt to a future of extreme weather. And if there's no genetic diversity, we might see all individuals be wiped out because they don't have the building blocks there to be able to adapt. So that's another aspect. We can use genetics both to monitor what's happening in a population, but we can also use it to kind of help them be more resilient to environmental change, which is really important with climate change that we're seeing at the moment.
Absolutely. When you tell people about your job and about what you do, is there any kind of misconceptions around the use of genetics in conservation? Because the first thing that pops to my head is like people who maybe don't understand or think you might use like genetic modification on animals.
Yeah, I think that's the main one for sure. So I think people don't think about genetics so much as a tool. So as I was saying, we can use genetics just for the sake of genetics, so protecting diversity so they're able to adapt. But one of the main ways that genetics is used in wildlife biology is kind of in more of a forensics way. So a lot of the analyses we do are very similar to what happens in a forensic investigation, where you're trying to match a suspect to a crime or something like that. The way that we use genetics is much more to understand a population and to understand relatedness and how connected populations are. So I think that's a massive misconception, the idea that we're all growing ears on rats or something like that, which is also a very cool area of biology, but yeah, quite different.
Do you remember the moment of inspiration when you thought, yeah, I'm going to commit to doing, more study and keep on going? Because you've, I imagine, done just so much research now in your life. Yeah. Do you remember when you thought, yes, I'm willing and ready to kind of commit and do this?
Yeah, I think there were probably a couple of points, but I remember, so I did first year uni, a Bachelor of Science, and was, I guess, kind of broad. Like I did some earth science and more molecular biology, and then also all of the ecology courses as well. And I remember just finding all of them quite interesting and usually gravitating towards the ecology courses but not being quite sure. And so then I took a gap year after my first year and I did a little bit of backpacking, as you do, and I went to Namibia to this kind of wildlife reserve, and I think it was a lot of fun. It was amazing to see all of these animals that have been rescued and get to be somewhere totally new. But at the same time, I think it really woke me up to wanting to do research because I just thought, wow, the impact that you can have when you're actually, understanding how these things work and trying to do conservation on a broader scale is so important. So yeah, I think going out there and getting to actually work with, I guess, practitioners and people actually on the ground doing conservation was really, really inspiring. Yeah, so after that, I went back and I really committed to ecology. I did a lot of ecology courses, and I think it was just kind of following my interests that led me to genetics as well. Like, just found myself taking genetics courses and thinking about how those things can be paired up. And then after my honours, I took another year off and I worked in a lab for a little while. And that was great too, but at the end of the day, I thought, well, I could just be studying. Like I could just be doing a PhD right now. I know this is what I want to do, so I may as well jump in.
A lot of people find that idea of doing so much research and writing so much, getting through to your postdoc, that's a lot of writing and a lot of research.
Yeah.
Was there ever a point where you thought, no, this is too much, I just want to do something a little less, I don't want to say difficult, but a little less on your own and in search of answers, you know, something a little bit more clear cut?
Yeah, all the time, for sure. Yeah, it's a real challenge, I think. Yeah, there's so much to find out, there's so much to learn that sometimes it can be overwhelming because you're trying to write your specific paper, but you've read all of this incredible research and you want it all to be in there. And, you know, I often get overwhelmed by the research because, yeah, there's so much to learn. But I think every time I kind of have a bit of a break or something, I'm just wanting to get started again. It's, yeah, very addictive because while it can be really mentally exhausting, I guess, there's not that many jobs where you just get to spend every day following your interest. Like, yeah, I think we're very lucky to just be able to read research papers every day. You know, who gets to do that? It's incredible. Or go out to the remote Pilbara or something like that and learn about the animals and plants that are there. It's a pretty incredible job.
I was hoping to get your favourite fun fact.
Yeah, so I had to think. It's hard to come up with just one.
Yeah.
But I thought since I'm working in the Pilbara at the moment, I should come up with an arid or semi-arid fact. So I thought a good one was to talk about how incredible our mammal species are at adapting to arid conditions.
Oh, yeah?
So we've got a huge range of animals that live in Australia's arid zones, and I guess one of the main challenges for them is how do they deal with not having very much water. And so one species, the Spinifex hopping mouse, has the most efficient tiny kidneys. What it does is it doesn't drink water because obviously freestanding water is quite hard to come by. So it gets all of the water it needs from its food, so seeds and things like that. And then the kidneys will recycle that over and over and over again until finally what it pees out is solid.
Wow.
So there's no loss.
That's amazing.
Yeah, and then they've also got these incredible big ears which help with heat loss. And they hop, which is a very efficient way of conserving energy. So,
who would have thought? That is so cool. Thank you so much for being on the podcast today.
No worries, it was a pleasure.